Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Empowerment Essentials. I'm your host, Dr. Lacey. I see we have one person already on, so I'm just going to say, come on in, come on in. It's a beautiful day in Michigan, and it's so good to be here and to be seen right here on Facebook Live. So as you come in, I see some people coming in. We want to shout you out as you come in. And I just want to ask you, as you come in, to please start sharing out this broadcast. Tag Barbie, tag her friends. I see some of my friends coming in. Good afternoon, Hope. Thank you so much for joining and sharing this broadcast. Okay, I see the Ellis is on here. Okay, thank you so much. She said, that's my BFF. So proud of her. Thank you for joining the program. So we're just going to wait for a few more people to come on the live, but I just want you and Barbie and I are going to take a minute and we're going to share this out. And so while we're sharing it out, thank you guys. Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Pelzer. So glad to have you on Empowerment Essentials today. It's gonna be a great show. It is gonna be an awesome show, and I'm gonna share it out and get some people on here. We're gonna send a post. We're gonna post that out and share it. Tag somebody right now as you're coming in. It's so good to see you, and I'm just excited about today's show. I'm excited, y'all, about today's show. So thank you all for joining. Good afternoon, Hope. Thank you so much for being on here. Hi, Tina. Thank you for joining today. This is going to be a dynamic show. Listen, if you know somebody that has a child with autism and or just a mother, I want you to share it. Hello, good afternoon, Selena. Thank you so much for joining today. Selena is a school teacher, and I know that she has taught some children with autism and come in contact with children with autism. And today is just going to be a phenomenal show. And I just want to say thank you guys so much as you're coming in. Again, if you would just, thank you, Tina. I'm so glad that you found time. I know it's beautiful outside and a lot of people are out doing a lot of different things, but thank you so much, guys, for being on today and for joining the show. Again, I'm just excited about today's program. I'm just going to keep it real. I was running around the house, just excited about being able to talk about this topic on today. And so we're not going to delay too long. I just wanted to give a few more people an opportunity to come in and just let us know where you're joining from. We have multiple platforms going where you can watch this on Facebook Live. We're streaming on YouTube Live right now, and also on my page, Dr. Salathia Empowerment Essential. So from whatever page that you're watching on, welcome, 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 and thank you for joining us today. So I'm not going to delay because I'm excited, and we have, hello, I see my friend Teresa Bell. How are you on this afternoon? Look, I'm trying not to rock and be too excited on the show. But thank you so much for joining on this afternoon. I know you guys have a lot going on. But today, I want to introduce my guest today. I tell you, I'm getting ready to bring her to the stage because I just can't wait. She said, I am blessed today. I know that's right. Amen. If you're in the land of the living, come on, you are blessed today. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my guest as people are coming on. We see the numbers going up. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, I know it's a beautiful afternoon. And you could be doing a lot of things, but I'm excited about our guest on today. Listen, you people that are just joining, why don't you just let us know where you're joining from? Say hello. Let Barbie know that you're on. She can see your comments, and we're going to be bringing her to the stage in just a minute. But I want to share a little bit about my special guest today. Okay, for those of you that don't know her. Her name is Barbara Santiago, and I'm reading this, so her bio. She was raised in the small city of Pontiac, Michigan, so she's local. She lives in a quite different world, unlike many other mothers. Though faced with the diversity of being a mother of three special needs children, she still manages to spread light on others while tackling the unguided journey with autism. And this is Autism Awareness Month. challenged with learning how to parent three distinct yet unique children. How many can relate to that? She comes face to face with judgment, isolation, sorrow, grief, and unpredictable chaos. Yet she still finds the ability to not lose herself while beating the odds of many things, to be able to make others laugh, spread knowledge, and give great words of advice defines how strong and a great person she truly is. And Barbie and I have had the opportunity to talk just a couple of times over the phone. And when I met her, I immediately was engaged with her. She wrote a beautiful book that we'll be talking about, which is called and I'm going to share that on the screen today. It's called My Autism Sentiment Diary, My ASD. And it's her sentiments written daily, converted into an open diary for the world to read. This is her Autism Sentiment Diary. So I want to welcome to the platform today this beautiful young woman, as you can see, by the name of Barbara. I'm going to say it wrong. Santiago. Santiago. I had it right the first time. Welcome, 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 Barbie, to Empowerment Essentials today. Why don't you just greet and say hello to the audience?
First, thank you for having me. And hello, everybody. I'm excited to be able to talk with you guys about some very important things that I want to share with you and what Miss Holly wants to speak to me about. So I'm excited. Um, you want me to introduce myself? I'm sorry.
Yes.
My name is Barbara Santiago, better known as Barbie. I am an author, blogger, and a community owner on Facebook. So, and they're all tied with my Autism Sentiment Diary.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Barbie, your book caught my attention. Actually, I was looking at hello from Alabama. All right. Thank you so much, Miss McNeil, for joining today. I was drawn to your book from a friend's page, and I seen that you were had written a diary about autism and mothering two children with autism and one child that has cerebral palsy. And I didn't know this when I was setting up the show, but this is Autism Awareness Month. And when we were talking about it, you said, I live with autism every day. So autism awareness for me is every day. And I just want to dive right now into this topic while people are still coming in. We just want to say hello to you. And Barbie, I just want you to, take your time and talk to the audience today and tell the audience you told them a little bit about yourself, but tell them a little bit about yourself, your day, and how long you've been a published author.
As for publishing, I've been an author for almost 2 years. October will be 2 years. I've been writing my whole life, writing parts of my journey as an autism parent in a memoir. So it's just, I've been writing my own journal just for me. It was not something that I was discussing with the world, but it was for my mental health, my reflection, my gratitude. And just one thing led to another. So I'm an author because I journal, and it became my platform. I slowly was able to disclose intimate things along the way, and that's how my blog came. And then along the way, the blog became my book because I met amazing parents just like me. So
Awesome. That's right. So basically, what you started doing was you started journaling your feelings, your thoughts, your days, and that journal turned into the book. And I also want the audience to let us know if you can hear us okay. Let Barbie know, let us know if our sound is okay, if our visuals okay, because we know how it is in this internet space. Sometimes we have audio visual and we're not aware on the other side of the camera. So guys, just kind of let us know if you can see and hear us okay. So can you tell the audience today, the first chapter of your book is titled The Start of My Forever. The Start of My Forever. And you talk about, please tell us first of all about your first pregnancy and your oldest child.
Okay. With my oldest, I was 18 years old when I found out I was pregnant with him, and I had a regular pregnancy, just like any other mother. I was excited. I felt like I was creating a new prodigy. I was creating my seed. I was planning my son's future. And as for any parent, that's what you do when you're pregnant, and you start planning your pregnancy and your future. But further down the pregnancy, I ended up into preterm labor, and when he was born, to everybody else, my son appeared different. In my eyes, I saw a beautiful blue-eyed baby boy. So
Yes.
immediately, I didn't get to encounter a lot of things that parents get to encounter, such as a crying baby, holding your baby. I didn't have that experience. My son was immediately when he was born, he was facing complications from the moment he took his first breath. So with him, it just I didn't understand that he something was wrong with my son. I just felt like okay, it was maybe just a tough pregnancy. But the reality, kicked in when my son was 38 years old, and I had geneticists and specialists telling me there's something different about your son, and um, there's ways around this. Like you can leave him here, or prepare yourself to have a very difficult life because your son has a genetic disorder, and is there's things that come with his syndrome. So immediately that was the beginning of my forever because I realized everything that I had planned. I'm like, okay, this is going over here, and this is what I need to understand. And I had to learn to build from that. And
Yeah, so your first pregnancy, you were expecting to be able to grab hold to your baby, and your son was diagnosed, taken from you, and diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And for
correct.
those that don't know what that is, it's a disorder that affects a person's ability to move, maintain balance. And along with that comes a whole host of other symptoms and complications,
Yes,
seizures, vision issues, hearing and speech.
correct.
Sometimes even affects their ability to be able to walk or function. And so you were faced with that prospect of having to deal with all of that.
Yes, my son was discharged at 18 days old after we did all the necessary blood work because they wanted to get a genetic breakdown to make sure that there was not something else going on with him. And I went through it. My son went home with breathing tubes and feeding tubes. Like he wasn't bottle feeding. His oxygen was dropping all the time. So he was already sent home with equipment that did display that he has special needs. Um,
Yes.
and I left the hospital with the understanding my son has cerebral palsy, and it didn't sit. I didn't understand it. It was all new to me. Um, at 36 weeks, I had to come back to the hospital, and that's when they explained the genetic part of his syndrome, and it's called Orbelli syndrome. And with Orbelli syndrome, he is missing part of his chromosome, and it's the 13th chromosome, which has caused him a lot of struggles in his life. And in his first 8 years, he encountered 21 surgeries. So it's just to see such a small child endure so much in a small period of time, your journey it gets altered. And since being his mom, he changed my perspective on life, that things can change, and sometimes change is good, but it's a scary change. So
Wow. And so, fast forward, you're dealing with one son with special needs. Your son is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. You're taking care of this son, which to God be the glory, he's now 20 years old. And a lot of things that the doctor said that he would never do, your son has done. So he has overcome has hit many milestones and overcome many complications in life. And so, thank you so much for sharing that part of your journey. We're here today, though, to talk about autism. Autism.
yes,
A lot of people don't know what autism is, but it's a spectrum. It's described as a spectrum disorder.
yes,
It's
it
a complex, lifelong developmental condition that typically appears during early childhood and can impact a person's social skills, communication, relationships,
behavior.
self-regulation, and it's different for everyone,
Yes.
and it's different for every child.
Yes.
But according to medical science, it's defined by a certain set of behaviors and is often referred to as a spectrum condition because of the broad range of symptoms and how it shows up in children differently. So you're living and you're parenting a child that has cerebral palsy, Fast forward about what, 18 months later, 2 years later, you're pregnant with your second pregnancy. You give birth to a beautiful, bouncing baby girl. And what happens?
She's she's great. There's she was the my bundle of joy. Just she brought so much joy in our household, and she was just a very, very smart little girl and adapted to her environment, and she did the typical things of any child. And it's slowly over time she started showing signs of regression, and I wasn't sure, and as a parent I was thinking to myself, she had a bad day, or maybe she just needs extra helps. I do understand development, when it comes to special needs because of
Right.
her brother. So I was like, okay, she's struggling on other areas and whatnot, but it's just I immediately noticed a significant change in her, and it was not of a norm. And when you talk to doctors about that, the first thing that is mentioned is too soon. Give it time. Your child, you know, will progress in their own on their own pace. And I believed it. And I just kept seeing regression. I saw communication, her social interaction, and her behaviors being affected with her peers, with her surroundings, with schooling, and I knew something was different. So I went away. I went and had her tested, and in 2006, autism wasn't a big conversation. And so it was new to me, it was new to many doctors. So it's become a learning experience. But just along the years, I've learned it.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you noticed? For instance, some of the areas your daughter was diagnosed with regression autism, which is a
Right.
different form of autism. So, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what happened? She started doing some things. She was progressing as developmentally normal. She was maybe gurgling, talking, playing, engaging with you, recognizing you, knowing you as mommy, doing the things
Mhm.
that, and then what happened?
I started noticing a significant change in her behaviors. She was a little bit more rejective with touch and affection. The eye contact started to, fade out. It was a very delayed response. She went from small vocab to babbling, walking to wanting to crawl. The tiptoe walking was the first thing I noticed, but I didn't think the tiptoe walker was a trait of autism, and she started struggling in just basic things. She started forgetting a lot of the stuff. So when I explained that to the doctor, they said that it was regressive autism, meaning that she was just losing a lot of her skills in a slow period of time, and it was going to keep happening. But with the right intervention, she was going to gain all those skills back. That she needed special support for those things.
Wow, Barbie. I just want to take a moment to just really applaud you right now. I mean, because sitting on the other side of this camera and just knowing your story and your journey and having one special needs child and then having your second baby to be diagnosed with autism, regressive autism. I mean, that had to be very sobering, very scary, and in some ways traumatic as a mom. The overwhelming piece of that. Talk a little bit about that.
The overwhelming part about all of this was the experience led me to feel extremely alone. I couldn't run to family and friends and my peers to discuss of something that was extremely intimate, but something that I didn't want to be labeled as someone who was just Googling and self-diagnosing my child. I was like, no, I know there's something different about my child, and my child is struggling, and I as a parent feel the obligation to want to help my child. I had no intentions. Like 10 years ago, I would have told you I never picture myself as an advocate. I never picture myself homeschooling and getting parent training for ABA, and learning how to teach special education. Those things came with the territory, and many parents, they count on society to help them.
Yeah,
I ventured into it where going, no, my child needs all the intervention possible, and I'm going to make this happen. So I just dedicated myself in trying to balance that out. But in the midst of all that, I felt very frustrated because I didn't know what to do, which direction, who to trust. And
yes,
I had to suck it up and ask for help. I had to apply for agencies and support coordinators and mentors. And I started to reach out And with the blogging, I got to meeting other people, and they were like, try this, you should consider this, check out this doctor. I started to network out of my own outreach, and my outreach has connected me to other people that not are only resourceful, but also they
Yes.
want to learn too. Because it's like I ended up creating a platform of different individuals. I drew people in with my sense of curiosity, and I was fully dedicated. I was head in. I was so involved with autism that I canceled everything out because I
Wow.
wanted to help my baby.
Yes. And so with that, you're a full-time mother. And being a full-time mother to your three children gave you an opportunity to write. And I just want to share with the audience really quickly this her book, wonderful book. She's written a book called My Autism Sentiment Diary, but she also has what she called a personal prompt journal. Talk a little bit, Barbie, about the prompt journal.
With the prompt journal, it stems from my actual book. A lot of the niches that I created, all the topics that I discuss in my book, I found it appropriate to create a, a ways to help other parents like me dealing with the similar struggles. Okay. And with the autism sentiment diary, I created the prompts because a lot of parents just don't know how to open up. So when I provided the prompts, it made it the parents easier to address what they are struggling to speak on. The prompt journal has been beneficial for several families that I've encountered because they can sit down, fill it out privately at home, and when they're ready to discuss it with their loved ones or their associates or school or even their support coordinators for their crisis plan, the journal did that. And that's what I did it for. To me, it was easy for me to write my journal, my 3 R's: my reflection, my refocus, and my reinvention. And all three always gave me
Yes.
recovery. So I
Yes.
was trying to help parents to get that same relief.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, moving forward, I want to talk a bit about your third pregnancy.
Okay.
So you get pregnant with your third child. You have two special needs children. You then become pregnant with your third child. Talk about that pregnancy. What were the expectations around that pregnancy? Surely you weren't thinking that I'm going to have another baby with autism, but talk about your third pregnancy, folks. I mean, this young woman here is just simply amazing. She had a son with cerebral palsy. She had her second child, her daughter, that was diagnosed with regressive autism. And then she becomes pregnant with her third child and has her third pregnancy. And fast forward, Barbie, talk a little bit about that because I just think this is simply amazing.
Because of my oldest son having Orbelli syndrome, it was recommended by the geneticist for me to have genetic testing. The genetic testing was for me to get a better understanding of what I carry as a trait that I can pass on to my children. My daughter got tested as well, and when she got tested, it came back that there was nothing tying me or her to autism. I believe in science, and science has been changing and evolving around along the years. And there are many different factors that cause autism. But when it comes to having autism and not understanding it, you fall into a whole different bracket of having to advocate for something that you don't know. So when I talk about my children's autism, I can only speak on mine. And when I ended up pregnant with my third child, I didn't think autism. Why? Because I was told that I was fine, that I didn't need any more genetic testing, that there was no possibility of another child having autism. Fast forward, I have a child, I'm pregnant. The pregnancy feels like any typical pregnancy. He's born. By 10 months, I knew. I knew my son had autism because I knew what to look for. I wasn't looking for it, but I saw it. I saw regression. I saw the limited eye contact. I saw a lot of the traits that my daughter possessed, but I've also learned to look at my children differently. I know that autism affects communication and speech and behaviors, but my children acted differently. So I had to learn two different types of autism with my children. So when he got diagnosed, it was a different exposure because I wasn't told it was regressive autism. I was pretty much informed that your son has autism and he might have severe autism. And that is
Wow.
different.
Look, talk a little bit about, so you have two children with autism. And you are the expert. I consider you to be the expert on it. Would you talk a little bit about the differences between perhaps your son and your daughter? Like what's because no two children with autism are alike. Teachers,
Absolutely.
teachers can testify to this. I mean, different people, professionals will testify this. You have two children, both with autism, but talk about the differences and the similarities.
With autism, you will be affected with communication, social interaction, and behaviors. So I already knew that those three things will be affected with my children's autism. The difference is that my daughter is more verbal and my son is nonverbal. So their approach on communication is extremely different, but they both need the same amount of support. So she has an AAC, he has a pegboard. So he communicates with pictures, she communicates with a machine, and and occasionally vocalizes. So with their autism, sometimes you have to separate them for them to show their best. They're with verbal and nonverbal autism, it's there's a difference there, but they both know how to communicate. I had to learn to understand their language. My son has a non-verbal language, my daughter has a verbal language that is not words either. And so I had to learn to adapt to the way they handle the world, because their brains operate different, they take in things differently. And I don't look at my children as he has severe autism and she has mild autism. No, I look at
Yeah.
autism as autism, and they both possess different patterns. They both are affected differently in the same areas. So I always, when I speak to other parents about autism, I always tell parents to be mindful. Comparing your child to the next autistic child, you're going to hit a wall. Pay attention to your child individually. It's just like an IEP. I have my own IEP goals at home. I do my own daily skills and everything at home with them. And what my daughter can do, my son can't do yet.
Right.
What I do is I use my children, they model each other, they learn differently, but I'm learning to learn with them. But I also had to learn in order to teach them. And in
Yeah.
order for me to teach them, I had to learn to listen to them.
You know
And
what I want you to do? I was reading your book and you talked about sometimes people can be so judgmental. And
ooh,
sometimes we can be very judgmental. And I say we because I'm sure I've been guilty of it too. We can be judgmental with not really understanding sometimes
mhm.
the behaviors. You see a child acting out in the grocery store. And you talked a little bit about that, taking your children out in the social part. Talk about what that might look like. You might see a child having a severe meltdown in the store. Talk about some of those experiences that so that we can help us to understand.
I'll give you a great example. I was out in the store yesterday, and this little boy was standing right next to his grandmother. He's fidgety, he can't sit still, he's not giving eye contact, he's over talking, and he begged his grandmother. He said, "Grandma, can I please do it?" And she goes, "What?" And he goes, "Can I please do it?" And she goes, "Do what?" "Can I please do my super run?" And she looks around and she goes, "You can do that at home, not here. Please, Grandma, I promise. If I do my super run, I'll feel better." She looked around and she let him run. He ran to the end of the aisle, came back, stood next to her. He said, "I feel better." Now, to anybody who doesn't understand autism, you will see a very hyper child who's not being obedient, that is not listening to his grandmother, when realistically he communicated with his grandmother, he asked permission, and he followed suit when he told her, "I'm going to do this and come back," and he felt better. I gave grandma a high five. I'm like, I like what you did there. She told me he was recently diagnosed with autism, and I'm learning to listen to him. She said
Yes,
he feels
yes.
better. She said I let him do that little run that took 15 seconds of his life, and now he's self-regulated. He's happy, and she said that's how we communicate. And the little boy looked me in my face and said, "My grandma's the best. She's a great listener."
Yes, that
And
is so
that is what I
powerful.
stand by, is you have to listen. Sometimes words can't be heard. Okay. I get that. But there's so many different languages. And if the world acknowledges that there are so many different ways of communicating, and you just listen to that, you'll be surprised how you can help a child with autism. Because you have to have patience for them. Some require a little bit more patience when it comes to speaking to you. Okay.
Yes.
Some of them don't know how to speak to you, can't get the words out. There's a such thing as apraxia, with apraxia, they know what they want to say, they just can't get it out.
They can't get it
And
out.
then there's the nonverbal words. I don't know how to talk. But if the book, the pack is not available, they can't communicate, you know? So that has to be always available for them. The AAC, digital, you push the button and you communicate. That's how I communicate at home with my children. I long to have a long conversation with my babies, but I am happy to be able to communicate. And that is how we balance out our home with autism, because they have different struggles. That's all it is.
Yes. Wow. Well, again, for those of you that just might be joining the broadcast, thank you so much today. I'm talking to author Barbara Santiago. I hope I keep saying that right. And she is the author of My Autism Sentiment Diary. Um, and then we have a comment here from the office. She said, can you speak a little more on the nonverbal and the verbal and what's the difference? Barbie, can you do that? Talk a little bit more about that, because you have the experience of parenting both, right? So
Correct.
talk just a little bit more to our audience about that.
The best example I can give you is like, if you don't have a voice, wouldn't you want to be understood some way, somehow? How would you communicate? And if you're frustrated, you're going to have behaviors. So it's like, when it comes to a nonverbal child, they have to trust the individual to make the appropriate decision for them. And sometimes on the receiving end, we as parents, we make mistakes. So our child starts experiencing more behaviors tied to that. Communication is not just words. And until people understand that communication is bigger than that, we have all different types of language. We have gestures, we have body language, we have sign language, we have picture language, we have AACs. So because a child is nonverbal, that it does not mean that child has no method or doesn't possess an ability to learn to communicate. They can communicate. You just haven't learned their method of communicating.
You haven't learned their language. You haven't taken the opportunity to learn how they communicate with the world. I believe that God, with these special needs children, they are a gift. And they have their own special way that God has given them of being able to communicate. And what I found with some children with autism is that you have to find that interest that they like. One of the young ladies at my church, her son loves dinosaurs. And I mean, if you give him a dinosaur, anything with dinosaurs, he can tell you everything about every dinosaur because he loves it, and he can call their names. And many of the children that are diagnosed with autism are savants. So they
Correct.
may have a special gift that is up to you as that parent or that grandparent to be able to identify what that child's special gift is,
If I
right?
may add to that, if I may add to that,
Yes, please.
that is absolutely true, 100%. You will have, with autism, there are many children that gravitate to things and they learn that like no other. And in society, it's like, okay, that's all you know. That is the fact that that child knows something. That's a blessing, okay. But
Yes,
two, it's like we want the society to be able to introduce and accept them in a ways where they can try new things. Okay. With autism, there's a lot of intelligent individuals with autism. And what's
yes,
going on with them is that, yes, they struggle with communication. They struggle with social interaction. They struggle with behaviors. That's true. But that doesn't mean that they don't understand. The comprehension is still there. Whether they have a developmental delay, if they have a cognitive impairment, comprehension is still there. Some children just need a little bit more exposure to it, you know. And in schools, I stand on it. I every single week at home here, I do virtual learning. I do a lot of maintenance because I want to make
yes,
sure that my children remember what was taught. And then what I do is what is taught, I build off of it. So when it comes to children who have an obsession, it's a good thing, but there's also that there's a skill there. And how can you build
yes,
off of that? How can you build off of something that your child is really good at? If your
yes,
child is into dinosaurs, what direction can you guide your child with dinosaurs? That's his happy place, right? How can you incorporate
absolutely.
dinosaurs and into a more into a future? How can you incorporate that? You know, I've met many children and many individuals with autism. They're awesome writers. They're great at math. They can read. They can build. They do art. It's
Awesome.
amazing. They're amazing. I have met so
Wow.
many amazing people with autism, and I created two of them. I'm just waiting to see and giving my children the exposure so they can show me what they're really good at. So
Wow, that is so awesome. You created two of those amazing children. Well, I don't want us to run out of time. Thank you so much, audience, for hanging in there with us. If you have any questions for my incredible guest today, please put them in the comments and we'll try to answer as many questions as you can. Barbie has so many tools and resources available for parents with autism. And if you want to do something in the way of being a great blessing to someone for Mother's Day, I want you to think about some of these tools and resources that she has to give somebody's with for Mother's Day. I've already purchased her prompt journal because I want to be able to look at it. I want to share it as a tool. It's only $6. Yes, and she's holding it up to the screen. It's only $6. That sentiment diary, and she has some other wonderful tools that she has created for parents with autism. And I want you to be able to tap into those resources. So, Barbie, this is so important. This question that I want to ask you now, because this stood out to me in your book. You said the diagnosis is not a name tag. The diagnosis is not a name tag. And this is what we do, people. We'll see a child that has autism, and before we say Mary, before we say John, before we say Joey, we label that child by the diagnosis. But you said in your book, the diagnosis is not a name tag. Talk about that. Talk about that.
yes, I'm not the individual that walks up to people who has ADHD or has a vision impairment or has a cane and go, "Hey, John," and I expect you to explain to me why you are using a cane or why you have a hearing aid. With autism, yes, it's a very misunderstood syndrome or a disorder, and I've over years I found myself having to introduce my children, but then I get the and I'm like, and I'm confused. And it turns out that they want me to explain what he has. And it just got to the point where it's like my son is more than a name tag. He's Jadiel, an 11-year-old boy who loves to play, who loves to bounce, and he loves to dance. And I think that's all you need to know. I didn't know autism needed to be explained so much. It's educational, but it's also to the point where it's more. They're more than that. It's not fair. I don't like the labels, and the labels really just kind of give me a constant reminder of what my child has, and I don't need it. I know my child has autism. So
Right. And you shouldn't have to constantly introduce your child by, like you said, the diagnosis.
correct.
You
Can you
can
imagine?
introduce.
Can you imagine us all having to communicate that way? And it's like, "Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Barbara. I have anxiety." It's like that's not how it works. I really wish it was a little bit more different in how we approach and spread the awareness and the knowledge of autism and what comes with it. They're just individuals who have a different brain and they do things differently, but they're humans just like us.
Wow, absolutely. Oh, this is just so engaging. We're going to shift gears for a moment, and now we're going to talk about mothering, and we're going to talk about being the mother,
Mm.
being the woman, being the wife, being the friend, or the sister that has children with autism. Talk about how having children with special needs and with autism has affected your social life. How has it affected you socially?
Ooh, it affected my social life when it became so demanding where I barely could leave the house. And it became a point towards like I haven't been out the house in a couple of days, and
Wow.
it does affect you, and the anxiety that you establish being a parent of a child who is a runner and a climber, and he self-inflicts and he's taking so many medications and he has other diagnoses that you physically can't see. So I'm a parent who worries a lot. So socially it affects me because I'm out in society, but my brain is at home. I'm thinking about the babies. And then being socially affected, I don't get to see my loved ones. I don't get out much. I know I've missed many opportunities, and I don't I don't go out much. I don't visit. I don't talk on the phone, and I find myself having to apologize like, "I'm sorry I didn't call you back." This is what it's been. I'm just a very busy mom, and socially it's affected me a lot, which inspired me to write more. And my writing just kept going and going. And with my blogging, now I am more socially involved with society.
Awesome. What should a mother do? They're struggling with their own mental health. You talked a little bit about dealing with anxiety, and I know that there has to be times when the anxiety level has to be extremely high, just because you're a young woman and you know you're a wife, or you have one that might be sicker than usual. Even COVID, um, bringing another level of anxiety. But what
Hmm.
advice, because you've been living with this for a while, you have a son that's 20, and your daughter, how old is she? She's 18.
She just turned 18. 18.
Congratulations,
So I
congratulations.
have officially two adults, and I have an 11-year-old that's almost there, and it's going fast.
And look at you, you only look like you're about 25 yourself. So having a child, that a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, what advice can you give to mothers out there that are struggling with children with special needs?
First and foremost, it's okay to not be okay. Don't pretend you're a human. You're gonna go through moments where you're gonna ask yourself, like this is a lot. I became a parent of three special needs children, but I am doing the job of six parents. So in society, I look like a superhero. And some days I just wanted my cape to just be my blanket. I've had many bad days, and it's hard. I won't lie, autism is hard. It's not the child, it's more so the things that comes with the child that you want to be a part of. You want, as a parent, you want to be there, and you deal with a lot of frustrations. So when it comes to mental health, you have to acknowledge yourself first, because self-care is so important in order for you to take care of someone else. So when you neglect yourself and you don't acknowledge your mental health, it affects you in other areas. And I wouldn't call it bad parenting. It does affect your parenting. Take breaks when you can. If you can't escape the house, find a moment to self reflect. Show your daily gratitude, celebrate yourself, take breaks when you need to. If you're not having a good day, there's always tomorrow. Always be mindful that if you're not at your best, your kids are going to feel every single bit of that. There are moments that we move at autopilot, and we the life is so demanding, and we feel like we have to kind of get out of this. Like, how do we make this stop? Because it's like, oh my God, go over there, go take a break, please give me.
Right.
We need that. Okay. And this is not just for autism. As a parent, you kids need mom a lot more than anybody else, so the demand is always there. But when your
Yeah.
child has a relationship with you, and your child trusts you, and your child's established a relationship with you, they count on you. So the demands are higher, and they're a little bit harder at times. So mental health, it's okay to get a counselor. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to write about it. It's okay to venture out and get a support coordinator. It's okay to get a crisis plan established. It's okay to take a break. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. But
Wow.
always be mindful that your mental health matters just as much as your children's.
Wow, that's powerful. Give yourself permission to not be okay. Can somebody type that in the comments for me? Because I can't type it in the comments right now. But give yourself permission to not be okay. Because sometimes we won't acknowledge our feelings, and we won't acknowledge that we're struggling, and we don't acknowledge that it's hard. So that's where the meltdown comes, because you're constantly trying to be strong. One of our guests said, Barbara, you're an amazing mother and woman.
Thank
And so,
you.
and today I just want to appreciate and thank you for your transparency and for taking time away from your children to come on the show. Again, I want to encourage everyone today to get Barbie's book. It's available on Amazon. The print copy is $25.99. The digital copy is $9.99, or you can get it free with Kindle Unlimited. So today, if you're one of those people that you have Kindle Unlimited and you're watching the replay, you can get her book, My Autism Sentiment Diary. The print copy is $25.99. And when you invest in her, you're investing in the community. When you buy her book, you're supporting somebody that's getting information out to the autism community. So please, if you have Kindle, get the $9.99 digital copy. You will not regret it. I personally have her book, and I just ordered the prompt journal, and I ordered this book, the prompt journal. It's only $5.99. Would you please support my guest and go over and get that prompt journal? That's only $5.99. And it's 100 pages of random prompts to fill in at your own pace. If you don't have a child with autism, you know somebody with autism. Why don't you order this prompt journal for $5.99 as a Mother's Day gift? And it will really, really, really bless her as a stay-at-home mom, because that's what I'm about, Barbie. When I bring my guests on here, I want people to sew into you. I want people to buy your book. I want people to buy your journal because it touched me. I read your book, and I on a Saturday afternoon, I almost read your whole book in one day. I couldn't put it down. That's how powerful it is. So thank you for writing it.
Thank you.
Latoya, thank you so much for joining. She said, this blessed me so much. She said, my daughter was diagnosed with autism 3 years ago, and I really appreciate your transparency and encouragement to us moms.
My
So
pleasure.
thank you, Latoya. Barbie says, thank you for that. Barbie, I did want to hit on this before we go. You're a married woman. You're a married woman. You're parenting children with autism. How does having special needs affect the marriage? You said something about the 45%. Talk a little bit about how can having children with special needs affect a marriage?
It affects the marriage in many ways because you're fully consumed with your child, and your partner gets kind of set to the side at times, and it's not intentional, but it's kind of hard to tend to things when you have a crying child. And with my marriage, I've been fortunate enough to have a partner that's learning to understand the demands of autism and understanding it through exposure. He works a lot, so my husband's not home a lot. So I already go through the stage of missing him. But when you're at home and you can't tend to your husband, you miss him. But you have to tend to this guy or the other one. So it's just like it's an ongoing thing. It's so important to have an open dialogue about that. Have a conversation with your husband. If your husband wants steak every night, give the man steak every night. You're making up for your lost time. And it is such a blessing to have a partner that understands that. Talk to your partner, but definitely try to make time because it's so important to spend time with your partner. It really is. It really is.
I love that, what you just said. It's so, even though you have those special needs children, listen, I read her book, you all, and she gets cute for her husband. Hello, somebody. She says when he come home from work, she makes sure her hair is done. She put a little lipstick on. She tries to not
I try.
allow. That's right. And look how good, wonderful she looks today. So that's right. You do. Whether
Thank
you have
you.
special needs children or not, we have to make sure that we make time for our partners. You have to make sure that you put that extra effort in. So I just applaud you again for being such a great wife and a great mother, and for sharing that little tidbit with our audience. As we get ready to wrap it up today, how do you suggest family and friends help those? How can the community, how can the village help help
With
families that have
village,
children with? Yes,
with
talk.
village, I gotta talk about the village first. Village is not what you're born into. Village is what you create. You have to be mindful of what is best for your child. Family and friends, they love you to death. They support you 100%. But you have to be mindful that you might need additional support on the professional level. It's not about ego. It's what's best for your child. It's you get burned out. I have 3 children, and I am doing a job of 6 parents. My 2 oldest children lost their father to leukemia a couple years back, so my plan B is gone. So I had to learn to not feel like the superhero that everyone sees me, because even superheroes get tired. So I had to learn to build a village. It's so important to have relationships with everybody. I created emails from each of my children. My children each have their own emails. I have relationships with occupational therapists, speech therapists, ABA, the BCBA, social worker. I created my team. And the cool thing about it, as an advocate, you can tell somebody you're doing your job wrong. This is what I want for my child. You can make this happen, because as a parent, if you're a parent speaking up for your child, you are an advocate. And as an advocate, you hold a big responsibility there, and advocacy gives you the right to guide your child in the direction that you want. You're allowed to tell professionals, "Hey, I don't like this idea, but how about this?" Your voice is just as powerful as everyone else around that table.
I like what you just said. You are the advocate for your child.
Correct.
You have to be the voice for your child.
It's suggested. It's suggested. There's some people that depend on others to do it for them, and then there's parents that want the help, and they seek it. And it's the question is, what type of parent are you? Do you want to create the village to give your child the future that you want for your child, or are you going to be the one that is just going to take whatever's in your circle and that's available? Never feel afraid to expand yourself, because there's people out there that love to help children with autism. Seriously, I've had teamed up with many people, and now they're my friends. They sit
Perfect.
in my cookout. Why? Because I established a relationship with these individuals, because they have shown me the true meaning of support. Okay.
I got to stop you right there because we had a really good question that came up
I was
that
reading it.
piggybacked off of what we were talking about marriage. And I don't want to miss this one. It's from Olivia. She says, I would like to piggyback off that question. How for women who are single mothers
Okay.
with children with special needs, what should a woman look for in a man in the dating world? So imagine you're a single woman and you have a child with special needs. And of course, you still have needs too.
Correct.
And so what should a woman look for in a man when she does have a children? You see the question on your screen.
Yes, I do. And I was ready to chime in on that one. My personal opinion, I've been single with special needs, and it's a blessing that I have a husband. Okay. But when I was single, I literally made it very known. I pace myself. I don't rush the process. It's okay to start off as a friend. You don't want to jump into a relationship immediately. You definitely want to separate your dating from your children, because if you put it together too fast, it might be a tad bit overwhelming. Um, Dating is fine. And when you introduce your child to your partner, that's a serious conversation that you want to have with your partner before you introduce your child. Not everybody understands autism. So you want to make sure that the person that you're associating with has some understanding of the demands of a parent with children with autism, but also of the true understanding what comes with autism. You definitely want to pair up with somebody who is supportive and understanding and very respectful. Children, my saying, this is my saying, I am a mother first. I'm always a mother first. And that was the first thing I said. And I stand by that. I'm always going to be a mother first. So
A
it's
mother
pretty
first.
much you set the tone, but you definitely want to have that conversation. You definitely want to go in a couple of days, have some serious conversations about life,
And
about
I think you also wanted to understand his temperament, what
correct.
type of temperament he has, because,
Yes.
if he's a person that has no patience with children, short
No
tempered,
compassion. Yeah. Or is a very territorial individual that wants undivided attention, and you have to figure out the rest. Sometimes that's not the way it works. I can't express how many times I've set up dates with my husband and I had to cancel because of my child. It takes
yeah,
an understanding person to understand that things with autism, things are just as unpredictable as Michigan weather. That's my best advice I can give.
sure,
Pace
sure.
yourself. It should never, a relationship shouldn't be pressured, and a relationship, it should involve understanding and growing together. Maybe do a small picnic and invite your child, maybe one child at a time, and get that exposure. You want to pay attention to demeanors and reactions to when your child's having a hard time. Is this a partner that you consider supportive when things get hard? You definitely don't want to create more problems trying to establish a relationship. So
Wow, that was some great information there that you shared, Barbie. I hope we were able to glean and grab
that's
a lot from that. So as we get ready to wrap it up, I mean, we've been on here for an hour, and this hour has went by so fast.
so fast.
Again, I just want to point my audience to your book. The Prompt Journal today is available for $5.99 on Amazon, and we want to support her and get this and sew this into somebody's for Mother's Day. We're approaching Mother's Day. A single mom that's struggling, a married woman, anybody, buy this journal, even for yourself. It's only $5.99. Mine is supposed to be here tomorrow. I already have her book. And then also her book, which is available on Amazon in the print version for $25.99, digital for $9.99, and free on Kindle Unlimited if you have that. You won't regret it. It's an amazing, amazing book. As we get ready to wrap up today, Barbie, I wanted to ask you, is there light at the end of the tunnel for families that have children with autism? Is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. The thing is, the best advice I can give to any parent, whether you are a new parent to autism or a veteran, which I've been lately labeled as, always find the joy to your journey. If you focus on the negatives that comes from autism, then you're going to manifest a negative lifestyle. I stand on it. When you have negative energy, your child will pick up that negative energy. Start focusing on what your child is able versus what your child can't. I've changed that perspective on IEP meetings. I'm like, let's not talk about what my child did not do and what my child can do, but let's talk about what my child can do and what we can do with that. So, as a parent, always focus on the positives, because when you do that, you will find that light at the end of your tunnel. That is how you find the joy in your journey.
Awesome. And as we get ready to go off today, I just want you for about 30 seconds. And I know this may be a little difficult for you. I know this is not necessarily your type of platform, but can you just offer a word of hope and encouragement to a mother, to a sister, to a girlfriend that just got the diagnosis? They
Ooh,
just got it, Barbie.
ooh.
They just got that diagnosis. They just found out, and they feeling hopeless. They're feeling stuck.
And I'm going to talk
Please,
directly to you, to the
I
camera.
want you to talk directly to that person right now.
You're going to go through many stages. It's going to be hard to grasp everything that comes with it. The cool thing about autism is that each child has their own pattern. So instead of looking at autism as a whole and looking at it as something that's going to be hard, how about try to find the best in it? You're going to go through a moment of grief because you're going to have to accept certain things that your child can do right now. And if there are things that you want your child to do in the near future, then that is something that you will devote yourself with. Don't beat yourself up. This is all new, and it's a learning experience. And the best advice I can give you, if you don't know who else to listen to your child. Your child is the best advocate for you as well. The child might not have the language skills or the ways of explaining things to you, but if you pay attention to your child, the triggers, what they like, what they gravitate to, you will find that your child has a lot of things that can make you and your child very happy. So, what you feel at the beginning is normal. If you are worried, if you are mourning, if you're grieving, if you're upset, it's normal. But you must never unpack your emotions and live there, because that's not the type of environment you want to provide for your child. The best advice I can give you, write it down, get it out of your system, reflect, refocus, and reinvent yourself, because that's the best way to recover from the struggles of parenting in general. Autism is hard, I won't lie, but you can do this because you were chosen for this job.
Oh my gosh, what a positive note to end on. Kimberly says, yes, you go, Barbara. You go, you go, you go. Love your positivity. and that encouraging word. I picked up never unpack your emotions. I meant to say and live there, but you don't want to stay in that place.
No.
Don't unpack in any negative emotions and decide that you're so going to live there. Olivia says, thank you so much for this. This was much needed. Hope says, thank you so much for sharing a part of your life with us. You are so encouraging. And I agree. I agree so much. Jessica says she's teary eyed over here. What amazing words. Jessica, I'm with you. I'm not just saying this, Barbie. I've never had a guest on the show that made me want to cry. But I'm so full. I'm so full right now. You just almost brought me to tears. I got to keep my composure up here
That's okay.
because you are so sweet. Audience, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she stunning? She's just a stunningly beautiful woman. Thank you so much, Latoya, for joining. Teresa says an amazing interview. And look, you guys, as we get ready to go off again, I know I have been shouting out her book, but I really do want you to get that book. I know it's going to bless your life. And Barbie and I have already talked about this, and we're going to do a part two. We're going to get a date on the calendar for us to have a
Yes.
part two
There are
because
so
there's so
many
much
other
more.
topics. Yeah, we got, and
Yeah,
I got 30 topics that I can talk about, and it's gonna make, it's gonna take the audience. It's gonna take the audience. You guys want me to talk about it? I'll make it happen. Follow my
please.
blog, follow my community page. Let's make it happen. Maybe even create more topics that we can keep, more conversations.
Hold up. I want you to hold up some of those new tools that you've created, Barbie. You had your books, you had some of your journals.
I got my
Um,
book. I got my autism sentiment diary. This is just for individuals who have autism. You can give it to a grandparent, a caregiver, a friend. If you know a mom that just had her son diagnosed with autism and you know that she might be struggling with it, send her this. It's a nice gift. It's a token of you showing that you really do care for her. I created an ambition journal. And what this is, you can set all your plans, big or small. I mean, I have IEP goals I set up at home. I set life skills with my kids. I work with a lot of things that is outside of what school is providing because having goals is important. So that's what I've been doing. I also created a 3-year planner for parents like us that our life is so chaotic and we can't keep up. We don't need a calendar every year. So I created one for 3 years. Okay. I created a special needs prompt journal. This prompt journal is for children that don't have autism, but they do have a disability. And it has all the same prompts as the other prompt journal that I had provided. And they're very easy to fill out. Okay. I created a self-love journal. This is your journal for you to write your quote of the day. You can show your gratitude and you just reflect, refocus, and reinvent yourself. Another family planner. Okay. And this is for a family. It holds up a calendar for a family up to 5. So if you have a busy schedule, you can put your children's names on there and you can schedule their appointments individually. Okay. I also created, excuse the potty mouth, but this is for a journal for potty mouths. It has 7 prompts to help you get through things that frustrate you daily. If you're having a bad day, this is a great way to reflect.
all right.
And then the journals. I created just some really cute journals for you guys to write and express yourself however you want. So
Awesome, 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 awesome. Wow. Well, thank you again. Thank you again. I'm getting the comments. She said her single mothers would love this. She has so many tools and resources. So again, I encourage you to go over to her page. And her page is the same as her book. It's ASD Autism Sentiment Diary right here on Facebook. Well, thank you again for all of my amazing friends, our guests that tuned in again. Thank you so much for Kim. Thank you again. I really agree with you. This was an amazing interview. Very, very impressive. Christy says, beautiful inside and out. So very proud of you. So thank you for all of Barbie's supporters that came on here too to support her today. We've had an amazing show. So thank you again. Follow us on my page, like my page, Dr. Salathia Holly, Empowerment Essentials, right here on Facebook Live. And follow us for more dynamic interviews and shows. We look forward to bringing Barbie back again on next month. So for those that rode with us for the hour, thank you for riding with us. Wave to the audience, Barbie.
And thank you for having me, Miss Holly, because
You're
Dr.
so
Holly,
welcome.
I'm happy I came. I'm
All
really
right. Thank you so much, everybody.